Bills Mafia. On today's Air Raid Hour pregame, we'll be breaking down what we expect to see from the Bills tonight as they take on the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. Injury updates, key matchups, our pregame superlatives, all that are coming up. But first,
Welcome to the Air Raid Hour, a Cover One Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Judge Mathis and Tilt Money.
welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour Cover One Picasso's Pizza pregame show. We are here to get you ready for the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots as they are set to go to battle tonight on Sunday Night Football, and a big game for the Bills. Chance to go to 5-0, a chance to stay undefeated at home, a chance to go 3-0 to start your first three division games in the division, have one win on each of your division opponents. So a big game for the Buffalo Bills tonight, a lot riding on it. But let's start off with our lead story, one that I think is a lot more subdued than it was last year, and that is Stefon Diggs versus Josh Allen. This one maybe even a little bit bigger than last year because Stefon Diggs is returning to Buffalo. Stefon Diggs on the field is now more of a chain mover, at least so far early in the season, coming off that injury, than he is sort of a downfield yak guy. He had his best game last week for the Patriots, going 6 for 101, still has no touchdowns on the season. That leaves his linear projection on the year for Stefon Diggs to be about 90 catches and about 920 yards. That's not bad when we saw him last in Houston before he tore his ACL. Obviously, we have that infamous side-eye shot from that Houston game as well after the Houston Texans won the game. Josh Allen was complimentary of Stefon Diggs leading up into the pregame this week, but you saw a different smile come onto his face when he talked about Mac Hollins. Expect boos and emotions from this Buffalo Bills crowd because while that Stefon Diggs tenure was great, there were some late season elimination games, down the stretch type of things from Stefon Diggs over the years that I think has had fans a little underwhelmed when he left Buffalo. So what are your thoughts on this second Diggs-Allen matchup?
It's interesting because you look back at Stefon Diggs as a player for the Bills, and he honestly is one of the best players to ever play for the Bills. That 4-year stretch was just really an incredible stretch for him and Josh Allen. That tandem was one of the most effective tandems in the NFL for those years. And it's unfortunate kind of the way the things sort of ended there with the trade and sort of some of the things in the postseason and some big moments with drops or misses, I'll call them missed connections there. But it's just one of those things where we're going to look at sort of how the relationship ended and not maybe necessarily reflect on how good he really was for this team. And I do expect that he will probably get booed. It's not going to be surprising to me. I'm appreciative of his time here. I'm appreciative of how good we had it with him. It's interesting that like he was the alpha here. The Bills kind of shifted to an everybody eats mentality. And now Stefon Diggs himself is kind of in a New England offense where it's a bit of an everybody eats mentality for New England as well, between Boutte and Kyle Williams and Diggs and Henry. And like, there's a lot of options in that New England passing game. And he's kind of one of the guys in that group now. He still leads that team in catches this year. And I expect he probably will lead the team in catches this year, but he will, I really kind of am past the sort of the ill will feeling for Stefon Diggs myself, but he probably will get booed tonight in Highmark.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. We're going to get to the X's and O's in a little bit here. This is just like a little fun little conversation to start the show. But I actually do think that he's going to play a rather significant role because he really seems like he's growing a really decent rapport with Drake May, and the stuff that he is creating underneath is helping them be a lot more efficient down the field too. So Stefon Diggs is certainly going to play a role today. We have someone coming in here saying already with the BS Diggs versus Allen narrative, it's not a thing. All right. So let's maybe move on from the old to the new. And let's talk about maybe this possibly the start of this new budding rivalry between Drake May and Josh Allen. Drake May and Josh Allen. They formed a friendship this offseason. They've been in communication. They work together. They work out together. They text each other, etc. Drake May, who was my number one quarterback in last year's draft class, is blossoming into one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. The Patriots are sitting at 2-2. They are saying all the right things this week, in my opinion. Every single one of those players are in lock and step saying, hey, the Bills are a really good team. This is a measuring stick game for them. But when you do look at the Patriots, just like the Bills, even though the Bills' schedule has been a lot softer, the Bills' current opponents that they've played are 2-14. The Patriots have played the Raiders, Dolphins, Steelers, and Panthers, who are combined 6-10. So this is going to be a fun matchup. You definitely know you're going to get the New England Patriots team's best shot, as we're going to discuss today. And they have matchups that they can exploit. To me, this is like a 55-45 ball game. This isn't like some 60-40, 65-30 game. Like, this is going to be close to a 50-50 game. Obviously, the Bills are the more talented football team, but a lot of matchups the Patriots can exploit, and a young quarterback who can step up on a big stage and make a name for himself tonight.
I like Drake May, as much as it pains me to say. Like, I'm not a UNC guy. I'm an NC State guy, so it's really hard for me to say that. I like Drake May a lot. Leads the NFL in completion percentage, by the way, Drake May this year. So this Patriots offense is still kind of trying, I think, find themselves with Drake May and what they're going to be this year. Obviously, they routed Carolina last week, and it's kind of made some of their numbers maybe look a little bit overinflated. But at the end of the day, like, he is a promising young quarterback in this league. He's the future of that team. I think it's a really good match as far as, and I hate to say this, what the Patriots are doing and having Mike Vrabel as the head coach and Drake May as the quarterback there. That's a nice kind of tandem coach quarterback duo to kind of build around for this franchise, to kind of put themselves back where they were for so many years. And it's tough, right? Once you're kind of knocked down, to kind of come back up. The Bills saw that happen to themselves, like in the late 90s, right? After the Music City Miracle, it was really hard for the Bills to build themselves back up after all those years. And the Patriots are trying to do that now in this Mike Vrabel era with Drake May. And it's going to be a task for the Bills tonight. And we're going to get into it when we start talking about the Pats offense versus the Bills defense. But I'm a fan of Drake May. The Patriots are 2-2. The Bills are 4-0. Should the Patriots win this game, that puts them at 3-2, the Bills at 4-1, and they would have the tiebreaker over the Bills as far as the head-to-head. So it's an important early season game as Johnny Utah comes in here.
Yeah, Johnny Utah comes to the super chat. Really appreciate you, Johnny, in a very, very generous super chat. Thank you so much. He says, since Mad Max and Dorian Strong, we're about to talk about injuries in a moment as well, are going to be out until the second half of the season, do you think Hancock will get some looks at outside cornerback? He has experience playing outside at Ohio State and is a great athlete. Love your show. I personally don't foresee it happening. I actually made a post on this on social media yesterday, not so much about Hancock, but about the outside cornerback position. I think Maxwell Hairston, Sean McDermott has definitely been very conservative in the way he talks about him, like trying to sort of put a cap on maybe, or a ceiling on what the expectations are that we can expect from Maxwell Hairston this year. You see him starting now just to run. He's still got that knee brace on, all those various different things. It could still be very much be a while, like a month and a half before we see Maxwell Hairston. Dorian Strong, we don't have too much information on that neck injury that he suffered last week, but this also could be a situation where the Bills, they just have a lot of guys who are hurt right now. They needed a roster spot. They're like, yeah, maybe this is a 1 to 2 week injury, but we're going to put you on IR because we need that roster spot. They obviously promoted Jimmy Charlo from the practice squad. So hopefully we'll get some more information on Dorian Strong soon, and it's not that serious. But they've got Benford, they got White, they got Ingram, they've got Dane Jackson. Obviously, guys like Reek Woolen could possibly be available for trade. So I think the Buffalo Bills have some options at outside corner. I do not think they're going to move Jordan Hancock for a number of reasons. They already have him working special teams and want him to get that down. They already probably are working him at nickel corner in case Taryn and Cam Lewis go down. And honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think one of the most underwhelming players on this team this year has been Taylor Rapp. I think he has not been very good. And I think Joe Marino and a couple others are doing a really good job pointing out that his history of head injuries might be catching up with him, because he seems very much less physical and willing to go after people than he has in years past. So if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I'm putting all my focus in maybe trying to get Jordan Hancock ready to play safety, because I think Taylor Rapp, if his play continues, is going to be a little bit of a drag on this defense. So that's where I stand. I don't think they're going to move Jordan Hancock around to the outside because he's already doing so much. But Dave, what are your thoughts here?
I tend to agree. I also think that when you start to talk about the safety position for the Bills overall, Taylor Rapp has been a disappointment. I think what we were hoping as Bills fans looks like it may be sort of on the cusp of coming true. And that's like Cole Bishop would ultimately develop into the best safety in the room. I think that's what we all had hoped when we drafted him in the post Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer world. You draft him in the second round. He's battled through injuries. He's had his certain ups and downs, but it sure looks like Cole Bishop is, while not markedly ascending, he is incrementally ascending seemingly each week, and he's getting a little better each week, whereas Taylor Rapp seems to be diminishing a bit Freudian slip there, a bit each week. And so the safety room overall still has some question marks. And should Taylor Rapp go down? You still have Hamlin. I get that. And you kind of want a guy like Hancock, who did have flashes in the preseason, to probably focus on that one position. I do think that the Bills, based on sort of what I'm kind of reading into the tea leaves, like we're hoping this Dorian Strong sort of move to IR as far as the corner position is concerned is more of a sort of roster gymnastics sort of save for them to say, like, look, he might miss a week or two, but we'd rather just put him on IR so that we could get the roster spot, and hopefully Hairston will be back soon. Ingram, as Kevin says, is ass at corner, but he's all they got, right?
Yeah,
so
but what I will say is Benford has had his struggles this year. We've seen Benford get beat. Trey White has had his struggles this year. We've seen Trey White get beat. But like at the end of the day, it's not just, especially when you're a cornerback, it's not just the cornerback. Like even though Benford got that contract, Benford isn't exactly the cornerback you leave out in an island man-to-man all the time. Like he's just not that dude. He's a top maybe like 10 to 18 corner in the league, but he's probably not that dude. Trey White is obviously getting a little bit older, but those guys need some help too. The safeties have not been communicating well. The linebackers have not been dropping well. The pass rush has not been married to the coverage. Like when the communication is lacking, when the pass rush isn't getting there, when guys are left on islands, when guys don't have help over the top or underneath where they think they have help over the top or underneath, guys are going to struggle a little bit. And when you watch guys like Eric and Anth break down the all-22, they'd be like, well, Christian Benford looked bad there, but really it was this guy who was not in this spot, or this guy who didn't communicate well, or this guy who didn't move over well. So I think there's a lot of context to it. I think as long as Benford and White stay healthy and we get Strong and Hairston back by the end of the year, I am completely content with this cornerback room right now. I know Charles G comes in and says, why would Seattle trade Reek Woolen? He's in a contract year, and they're already putting out reports that his playing time is diminishing, whether it's the team or his agent. They're already reaching out to all those insiders saying, like, this guy could be on the market. This guy could be a deadline mover. So the wheels are in place to get his name out there for a reason, to get GMs calling. So there is smoke to that fire. And apparently it's coming from Seattle, but who knows? And then Trey Williams comes in and says, Rapp is a box safety. He's playing out of position. Cole is redundant. Dave, I wonder who had that conversation on draft night when Cole Bishop was drafted.
Well, we've always talked about for a couple of years now. It's almost the safety rooms kind of got to the point where, like, you know how we talk about the defensive tackle room, and they like are not willing to go for anyone beyond the one tech position besides Daquan Jones. It's like the Bills don't want to have like a deep like center fielding type safety on this team.
Because I love Caleb. Like obviously DTD was my guy that draft year. I love Rabbit. He's more of a hybrid defender in Arizona right now, more so than a center fielder, but he can do it all. But Caleb Bullock, who was the center fielder in that draft, has been very, very good for the Houston Texans, and the Bills passed on him for Cole Bishop. But I like Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop in the role that like Taylor Rapp, you know what I'm saying? Like, so if we had Cole Bishop and I don't know, might be like a Xavier Watts, I think we'd be cooking with some fire here. But Johnny Utah comes in and says, Kobe Bryant is available on the Falcons practice squad. What is your opinion on the Bills' communication issues, even though guys have been playing together for multiple years? Is something off with Babbage, system issues, third down? First of all, Kobe Bryant, I can't see the Bills taking a young rookie off another team's practice squad unless it's to fill a depth sort of role. And I want anyone who watched the pregame show here, or not the pregame show, the offseason show here, knows that we loved Kobe Bryant, but I don't foresee that happening. As far as the communication issues, it's a very complex scheme. They like to disguise coverages. They've had linebackers in and out. They've got new defensive linemen. They're adding in all these new blitzes, like these simulated pressures and 5-man pressures. And obviously Ryan Nielsen's putting a little bit of his footprint on the defense. So there are some things that have probably changed communications, probably changed calls, etc., that are throwing the Buffalo Bills for a loop here early. And they do have a lot of younger players too that are slowly starting to get ingrained. So I think that plays into it as well. Any final thoughts here, Dave, on some of these awesome super chats from Johnny Utah here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just like at the end of the day, the Bills defense really relies on communication. So to Johnny's point there, like it is a true 1/11th type of system that the Bills are running. So one guy out of position really can make an issue for other players, especially as the Bills are kind of trying to introduce some new wrinkles and they have younger players that they're trying to get up to speed. I think you're finally seeing Cole Bishop getting more comfortable, getting a little bit more instinctual and a little less reactive, especially at plays around the line of scrimmage. The instincts on the interception he made obviously last week were incredible. He was late just by a smidge on another play that was almost a pass defensed. So he's getting it, but it's like these guys need reps. And so that's why I think when Hairston comes back, it's going to take him a bit of time too. It was nice getting Dorian Strong those reps. So I'm hopeful that he'll come back sort of in a couple weeks and after this IR stint, and we'll have a fully healthy CD.
I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't get hurt in that game, that maybe he was starting today. Like I think maybe he was really starting to make a push. So that really is unfortunate for Dorian Strong. But one person's bad news and unfortunate news is great news for others. We're going to talk about Jimmy Charlo and injuries as a second. So let's sort of break down. Oh, we got one more super chat. Sorry. Johnny Utah comes in and says a great defensive performance tonight would ease everyone's minds. God bless and happy Halloween. Let's go Buffalo. Yeah. A lot of matchups here that I think New England can exploit on the Buffalo Bills defense. So it's going to be really interesting tonight to see how prepared the Buffalo Bills are and how they can go about executing and maybe minimizing some of these advantages that I think the New England Patriots offense could have over their defense. And we'll get into that in a moment here with the X's and O's. But first, the broadcast tonight, Sunday Night Football in Orchard Park. It's a whiteout game in October. The Bills will be in their rivalry unis, their new alternative uniforms. So, of course, being a whiteout game, the weather is going to be warm this evening in the upper 70s with light wind here. Very nice October night in Buffalo. For the Patriots, K'Lavon Chaisson is out. That's a decent injury for them. He was one of their outside pass rushers. Questionable are Carlton Davis, the cornerback. He was sick this week. He's likely going to play. They're getting linebacker Tavai back off of IR. He'll probably play at inside linebacker next to Spillane in this game. And Milton Williams, I think he was the one that was the closest to maybe not playing, but Ian Rappaport reporting this morning that Milton Williams will likely go for the Patriots tonight. So the Patriots will pretty much just be without K'Lavon Chaisson. That is the one big injury for them. For the Bills, though, we mentioned Dorian Strong to IR. Dorian Williams is out with his knee injury. Questionable are Ed Oliver, Matt Milano, Spencer Brown, and TJ Sanders. Signed from the practice squad to the 53 to replace Dorian Strong is Jimmy Charlo. And called up from the practice squad is Zion Logue and Fedarian Mathis. So great name. So we have a ton of move from the Buffalo Bills over the past couple of days that could have a ton of different impacts on the way this 48-man roster is constructed today. Here is my sort of slow rundown of what I think is going to happen. I think Spencer Brown plays in this game. LP. If he doesn't go, it's pretty easy to figure out what is going to happen. It'll be RVD at right tackle, Chase Lunt as your swing tackle. Oliver and Sanders, that is a little bit trickier. Both are questionable. Oliver looked like he was a little gimpy this week, not during the plays, but after the plays and all the videos that we saw. TJ Sanders, when you have a young player who's developing and his body's not right and they're moving awkwardly, that could hinder their development. So the Bills might even maybe slow play and not try to rush TJ Sanders back onto the field. So that would definitely explain why Zion Logue and Fedarian Mathis are being called up from the practice squad and why they could be there. But I think Oliver, or maybe even Sanders, if I'm wrong about my sort of take on Sanders here, is that maybe one of these guys plays and the Bills carry 5, right? They keep Ed Oliver or TJ Sanders on a pitch count, and they have that 5th extra guy there in case they need them. Or maybe they really do think Ed Oliver or TJ Sanders are a true game time decision. And Zion Logue is probably going to play because he's played for this team before and he's been with this team for 2 years. But maybe Fedarian Mathis warms up, Ed Oliver's good to go, and then Fedarian Mathis doesn't play and he's inactive. So I wouldn't lose out too much hope for Ed Oliver yet, but obviously we won't know until an hour and a half before kickoff. Milano, I think Milano plays, but you obviously have Shaq Thompson there to wave in and be a security blanket, and you have Jimmy Charlo there now to play special teams. Ingram's going to be in for Strong. So I think the real big question mark is going to be for that last spot. Is it going to be Codrington or Samuel? Like, who do the Bills go back to their old ways of special teams, or do they keep rolling with 6 wide receivers?
Man, I mean, my gut tells me it's Codrington's going to be in there tonight. The Bills, I think special teams wise talked about last week how they were trying some different things, but I also don't think the McDermott loved having Shakir back there doing punt returns. So I think it's going to be Codrington. Also, like, he can't play anything worth of defense, but the Bills are thin at corner, so it's like in an emergency he'd have to come in. I think the 2 DTs getting the elevations sort of signals that the Bills want some flexibility sort of with the game day roster at the defensive tackle position and take this like as close up to the announcement of actives, the inactive list as they can, because I do think one of the 2 of those guys has a realistic shot of playing. That's Oliver and Sanders.
Yeah. And you might have a situation too where Codrington, you want that depth at corner with right. So who knows? And
to me, like I like Fedarian Mathis hasn't been here long, so for him to get that elevation is pretty interesting. I think that is a break class in case of emergency. Zion Logue should certainly be active tonight, but you start to think about it and you're weighing like, okay, the Bills are playing a division game tonight, Sunday Night Football. They'd love to have Ed Oliver in there. The Patriots haven't exactly been great at running the ball this year, and we're going to get to that in a second. But you also kind of see like the Bills get an extra day of rest after this week because their next game is at Atlanta for Monday Night Football in week 6. So do they want to give him maybe Ed Oliver like a little bit of extra time to get ready for that Monday night game in Atlanta? But this being a division game is super important. So for those reasons, I think that's why they want to maybe take this thing up until close to game time to figure out how they want to allocate those DTs in.
And we have John Roberts coming in and says, who do you think will be inactive? My prediction, I went semi-conservative. So in my prediction, which I posted on social media yesterday, I have Milano and Spencer Brown playing. And as you said, I have Oliver and TJ Sanders out. So my 7 inactive were Chase Lunt, Landon Jackson, Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders, Dorian Williams. I went with Jordan Hancock. And then I went with Brandon Codrington, even though I think Codrington could possibly be Curtis Samuel. So those were the 7 that I rolled with there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get into the Buffalo Bills offense versus the New England Patriots defense. But first, a quick word here from our sponsors.
Picasso's Pizza. Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. We are Buffalo Pizza. Shipping both local and nationwide. Order online today at Picasso'sPizza.net.
This episode is brought to you by Picasso's Pizza. With 4 convenient locations in Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell, Picasso's Pizza has been serving Buffalo's best pizza since 1980. Whether you're local or across the country, you can enjoy their delicious pizza delivered fresh to your door. Visit Picasso'sPizza.net to place your order today. Once again, that is Picasso'sPizza.net. All right, took us a little bit longer than usual, but now we're getting into the X's and O's of this matchup. And as always, we start with the Bills offense versus the New England Patriots defense. Some quick stats for you here. The New England Patriots defense is allowing 20 points per game, which is 11th in the NFL. They have an EPA of 22nd overall, 26th versus the pass, and 4th versus the run. Their personnel, they've got obviously some guys on the interior that are really good penetrators in Christian Barmore and Milton Williams. They got some nice space eaters and guys like Kyrie Songa. Keon White has taken a little bit of a step back, but he's a nice little depth player. On the edge, obviously they have no Clavon Chazon, but they have Harold Landry. They have Anthony Jennings. Landry is their best 2-way guy, going to give you a little pass rush pop. Anthony Jennings is more of their run-stopping edge setter. Linebacker, is where the defense looks a little weak. Obviously, Robert Spillane, I think, is having a really good season. I've always loved Robert Spillane. There's been a couple of years where he's been on like my trade deadline candidates list as a guy to come in when we're dealing with all these linebacker injuries. The Patriots got him this offseason. He's playing really well. Next to him is a little unsettled, though. Christian Ellis struggled. Jack Gibbons struggled. Now they got Tavai that they can possibly mix in at that other spot as their second sort of traditional linebacker. And then at cornerback, they get Christian Gonzalez back for his second week now. Blue chip player. Carlton Davis dealing with an injury, but he's a physical press corner. He will be playing in the slot. They got some athleticism in Marcus Jones, who's also an elite return man. And then at safety, this is where it's like, maybe the Bills can exploit them here. Jalen Hawkins, you got rookie Craig Wilson, who's been dealing with an injury but playing, and obviously Kyle Duggar, who's in the doghouse there, as we've found out all offseason, would be the fill-in if Craig Wilson is slow and maybe can't get into the game. But we love Craig Woodson in the pre-draft process, but he still is a young player. So that's what the Patriots defense sort of looks like in totality on paper. What are some of the DVOA highlights that you found as you sort of sifted through this Patriots defense?
Yeah, Patriots defensive DVOA, 28th overall, 28th against the pass, 8th against the run. They're third overall in rush D from a raw statistics standpoint. So we do have some alignment here with DVOA, them being 8th overall against the run in DVOA, only allowing 3.3 yards per rush attempt, which is second best in the NFL. They are 26th overall in pass defense from a raw statistics standpoint. So again, we have alignment with DVOA here, them being 28th overall, allowing 8.0 yards per pass attempt, which is 6th worst in the NFL. So you can start to see some of those alignments there. As far as sort of the sub packages of DVOA here against individual wide receiver matchups, 25th against wide receiver ones, 26th against wide receiver twos, 6th against the slot, 19th against tight ends. And here's, I think, what's going to be an important one for tonight. 26th against running backs as receivers out of the backfield. We've seen guys like Devon Achane have an 8 for 92 line and a touchdown against this team. We saw Jalen Warren have 5 catches for 34 yards against this team out of the backfield 2 weeks ago. So pay attention to that number, DVOA number ranking against running backs out of the backfield, 26th. I think it's really important. I'm going to talk about this in a second. For James Cook, not only to keep the Bills on schedule on the ground, but to be a factor in the passing game, given that Patriots allowing 39.1% third down conversion rate. That's bottom half in the NFL. And they have 32 defensive penalties on the season as well, which is bottom third in the NFL. So some of the DVOA numbers sort of lining up there, but it certainly would appear that if you want to attack this Patriots defense, you want to do it through the air. Especially knowing that a guy like Milton Williams will probably be active tonight based on the Ian Rappaport report. Bills still got to run the ball, but your most success is probably going to be through the air against this defense.
Yeah, and to me, when you say through the air, obviously we still want the Bills to run the ball, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, but attacking the middle of the field might be key for the Buffalo Bills. We talked about maybe their weakness at the spine, at the safety position with Woodson, Hawkins, Duggar in the doghouse. Spillane's playing well, but you have some question marks next to him. So if you're the Buffalo Bills and you're looking at a team that's 26 in EPA per pass, you got outside corners in Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez, who are probably going to play more man-to-man defense than the Patriots have been playing this year because Gonzalez has been banged up. You're probably going to lean on Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Khalil Shakir, and as you mentioned, the running backs out of the backfield. Force this Patriots team into base personnel. Make them throw linebackers onto the field, and then when they do put their bigger personnel onto the field, attack them through the air. Use your big people sets, your 2-3 tight end sets, use your Reggie Gilliams, get New England in base. They've been 5th worst EPA per snap versus pass from base. So those condensed sets, play actions, middle of the field throws look like you're going to run, but then turn it into a pass and attack that bigger personnel. I think that's going to be a big key for the Buffalo Bills, especially over the middle of the field in this football game.
Absolutely. And we know James Cook really didn't get a ton involved in the passing game last week, but I expect that to change this week. He's obviously a great receiver out of the backfield. Some of those arrow routes, some of those flat routes to sort of pretending like you're going to the sideline, coming back across the middle, like Chan Gailey used to do with Fred Jackson and CJ Spiller. I could see those types of routes for the running backs being effective tonight over the middle of the field and really trying to get take those outside corners who, again, maybe the statistics a little deceiving for the Pats pass defense there because they haven't had Christian Gonzalez outside of last week. I do agree with you that attacking the middle of the field makes a ton of sense. Kincaid and Cook and Shakir, I think the offense would need to funnel through those three guys tonight over the middle of the field.
And then you look at the Bills. The Bills have a powerhouse rushing offense right now. I mean, you look at most of the guys on content creators, the national content creators, a lot of guys that post all 22 film, like they're ranting and they're raving about the way this Bills offensive line is run blocking, the way James Cook is running, talking about him obviously as an offensive player of the year candidate. He was the AFC offensive player of the month. So James Cook is well on his way to being in those conversations. But the Patriots have a seemingly powerhouse rush defense as well. 4th in EPA per play in run defense. Through 4 weeks, the Patriots have allowed 3.3 yards per rush, 310 yards on only 93 attempts. That's a solid baseline run defense. But you look at the competition though. Las Vegas, terrible offensive line. Like Ashton Genty's got more yards after contact than he has yards this year. Like Ashton Genty has been on the struggle bus a little bit, and it's not because Ashton Genty's not a good running back. Right? It's because Las Vegas' offensive line is terrible. Miami, we know firsthand that their offensive line not so great with all the injuries that they are dealing with. Pittsburgh, they got a lot of names on that offensive line, but I still think back to, and again, I haven't watched too much Pittsburgh football this year, but going back to that game against Minnesota, what were the announcers talking about? Greg Olson, how bad that offensive line has been all year and how Aaron Rodgers has to throw the ball in 2 seconds and about how they are struggling to run the ball. Now they did better in that Minnesota game, but Pittsburgh, not the greatest offensive line in the world. Carolina dealing with injuries. These are all finger quotes bad offensive lines with no real quarterbacks who are run threats that the Patriots have gone up against. So the Bills shouldn't shy away from running the football, which has been their bread and butter this year because of the statistics we just laid out here. I think that they should try to run off tackle, run duo, attack the look to do mix in some misdirection stuff. Still maintain a focus on the run and use that to set up the pass.
100% agree. I think it's kind of a similar story to what we talked about last week against the Saints, who came into that game pretty good defending the run in their 3 games up to that point. And the Bills, again, they're number 1 DVOA rush offense. The Bills are. So that is their bread and butter. They're 3rd in pass, by the way. They're the number 1 overall DVOA offense. So they are effective, and they should continue to be effective with James Cook. James Cook had over 5 yards per carry against the Saints defense. I know this is like a division game, and it's maybe going to be a little bit tighter for that, but yeah, absolutely. Like James Cook's on the heater right now. You still have to press the issue with him running the ball. The Bills are the most successful on offense when they have that effective running game to go with Josh Allen in that passing game. So it makes too much sense to me that the Bills should test this Patriots defensive line. They're playing at home. They should be playing with a lead, ideally. They should be able to move the ball pretty effectively on this defense, who again is giving up almost 40% on 3rd downs as well. And, test that ankle, Milton Williams, test the edges, maybe run some outside zone as well. So I certainly agree. It's got to be a good balance tonight, I think, for the Bills on offense, but certainly you have to ride the offensive player of the month of September, James Cook.
We got Just Tipping who come in and says, I think Shakir is due for some deep seam routes. Go Bills. Yeah, maybe this is the long play for the Bills here because Khalil Shakir's air yards per target is down significantly this year, and it's gone down every year since his rookie year. So the Bills are definitely sort of condensing him a little bit to the underneath stuff, and maybe this is the week the Buffalo Bills try to throw a curveball here and try to get Khalil Shakir the ball a little bit more down the field, and maybe a little bit emphasis on yak and a little bit more emphasis on that downfield route running. So we will see how Khalil Shakir is used in this game, but because I expect a big emphasis on James Cook, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid. I think those will be the primary weapons that the Bills try to build their offense around in this game. And then from there, I think some of the underrated weapons are Elijah Moore with the misdirection, trying to figure out, are they playing man? Are they playing zone? Try to get them, especially get those like linebackers moving left to right, those safeties moving, those safeties in conflict. I think that'll be really important. I think if they go a lot of man today, Josh Palmer could play a role if he, in fact, his shoulder is healthier. Last week, apparently they rested him because he's got a non-reported shoulder injury. Didn't play him that many snaps. Ty Johnson, is this the game we'd finally look to give James Cook a little bit of a break? Could Ty Johnson have a reintroduction, his 2025 breakout game here today? Maybe he can make a couple of plays. Typically, you see him in the passing game, especially against man coverage. And then Dawson Knox has just always had big games in the past against New England. You could expect maybe another big Dawson Knox game here today. So
Haas too. Why not throw Haas into the mix?
And the one name I didn't mention, right, is Keon Coleman. So this is another thing too, where every week it's like, well, you look at the game plan and you're like, well, your man separator's Palmer, and the guys who attack the middle of the field are these guys. Coleman's just that boundary guy who's going to get after it as a run block. But every week it's still fun to watch. Maybe not fun, maybe stressful will be the word, because he was a second round pick, right? You want him to be your ex, but it's kind of fun to see, like, all right, the matchup says this. This is going against maybe a big Keon Coleman game. Will the Bills still get the ball to Keon Coleman? Can Keon Coleman deliver a nice stat line? Not that it matters. The W is all that matters, right? But it's interesting to see, hey, we think this game's going to go one way. Can Keon Coleman deliver even though we think it's going to go that other way?
I think in the right situations, Josh will certainly look his way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a tough matchup, right, for him. Christian Gonzalez, I think, going to be not necessarily exclusively matched up on him, but I think Christian Gonzalez will get matched up with Josh Palmer as well at times. So it's like maybe the Bills see a matchup where at times Keon Coleman's lined up with Carlton Davis, and we know he's kind of banged up a little, but it's a tall order, right? I don't expect it to be a high volume game for Keon or even Palmer for that matter, but like we saw last week, one drive, 2 catches for 30 plus yards. It could be one drive where he has like 2 big plays, and that could be what we talk about at the end of the night and say, hey, those 2 big plays, or maybe it's even a touchdown. We came up big in the game. But I do expect that to kind of be a secondary, avenue for the Bills as far as, and not necessarily the primary avenue for them to attack this defense.
Some other areas I think the Buffalo Bills could exploit. The Patriots are 19th in third down defense at 39%. So, create those 3rd and 3 situations, create those 2nd and 6 situations, try to keep those chains moving, try not to get yourself into these down and distance situations. You should be able to matriculate the ball if you need to down the field on this New England Patriots defense, and their red zone defense. And this has been the talk of New England, has been atrocious. Touchdowns allowed 88%, 35th. Of the 8 trips to the red zone, they've allowed 7 touchdowns this year. So the Bills need to make sure that they get the ball down the field. And then when they get to the red zone, they're not kicking field goals. They are scoring touchdowns. Usually not an issue for the Buffalo Bills. But if it is doing these type of things, was my connection there for a second?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. My daughter just woke up and I think she stepped on my Ethernet cable and knocked it out. So I had to put it back in there. So apologies for that. And hopefully that won't happen again. I have a nice little 75-foot long Ethernet cable that goes all the way from the upstairs of my house. But I think these are some matchups that the Buffalo Bills can look to exploit. And if the Patriots do look to go more man coverage too, with Gonzalez back, I think that Josh Allen and his legs, if guys turn their backs, could be an advantage for the Buffalo Bills. But the Patriots are going to be aware of Josh Allen. They know Josh Allen. They probably know how to spy him properly, but keeping that spy in can probably also help you attack down the field as well.
Yeah, Vrabel's going to have a good game plan. We know that. Whether or not it's effective or how effective it can be remains to be seen. Josh Allen was an X factor with his legs. Josh Allen was a factor for his legs with his legs last week in critical moments. I certainly expect that to be the case again for him tonight. But I think one of the keys is what you kind of said. Keep that down and distance sort of on schedule. Don't give the Patriots sort of free possessions by kind of being sloppy on offense. Like, go at it with like sort of a workman-like approach. And again, I still think it's super important for the Bills to sort of ride James Cook again. Yeah. Is he going to get 20 plus carries in this game? I could see that being a game where he does get 20 plus carries tonight. So I certainly would hope that at the opportune moments, Josh Allen will use his legs as he's done throughout his career in this year. And certainly that's always a reason for him to be an X factor.
All right, taking a look now at the Buffalo Bills defense versus this New England Patriots offense. And this Patriots offense starts with none other than second-year top 3 quarterback Drake May. He leads the NFL right now with 74% completion percentage. That's a league best. He's got 247 yards per game, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 109.4 rating. His EPA per dropback is 0.23, which is number 3 in the league. He's only thrown 8% of his balls deep, which is 26% in the league, but he's elite efficiency on his downfield throws this year. 4 for 6 for 127 yards on the season on his deep balls. His first read throws are 74%, which is 5th in the NFL. His time to throw is 2.57 seconds. His catchable ball rate is 81%, which is 2nd in the league. However, you can pressure him, and when you pressure him, you do see some struggles. He has some pressure and some sack issues. He's taken some bad sacks. He's missed some throws. He's admittedly said this, and he says it's things he's working on and learning from. 40% pressure rate, 9.5 sack rate, 21% of his pressures become sacks, which is 5th worst, and he's got 5 QB responsible sacks, which is the 2nd most in the league. So he's prone to making a bad throw like Josh did in his younger days. He's prone to making mistakes when pressured, which Josh was known for in his younger days. So getting pressure on Drake May is going to be key in this football game.
Yeah, you mentioned some bad sacks. He's been sacked 13 times this year, 3rd most in the NFL. Only Cam Ward and Lamar Jackson actually have been sacked more than Drake May. So he's getting to the DVOA here for the Patriots offensively, 8th in passing DVOA and 24th in rushing DVOA. So in theory, it's a strength on strength matchup from a DVOA standpoint, where the Bills defense is 10th against the pass in DVOA and 30th against the run in DVOA. That Pats offense is actually 13th overall in DVOA offense, whereas the Bills are 21st overall in DVOA defense. So, it's a middling strength on strength matchup, I would say, if you kind of want to look at it that way for the Bills, where they've struggled to defend the run. The Pats haven't really been super effective running the ball. Antonio Gibson is their highest yards per carry back this year at 4.5, but Stevenson's under 4 yards per carry. We know he's had fumbling issues. They really haven't used Travion Henderson that much this year. And as we said in sort of the onset of the show with the receiving game for the Pats, Diggs has been the guy. He leads the team in receptions. Hunter Henry's 2nd on the team in receptions. So it's been a sort of everybody eats approach for them as well on offense. And the Bills' pass defense, I think some people are saying like these are hollow pass defense numbers for the Bills because they've been run on so much. But, the Bills have had leads in these games. So teams have been forced to come from behind and try to throw on them, and they've held up. But yeah, this Pats offense with Drake May, I agree with you 100%. Number one thing is try to get him to the ground, where he's been sacked 13 times already this season.
Yeah, some other statistics, right? I think this game really is. We just talked about 3rd down for the Bills and how important 3rd down will be for the Bills. Let's talk about the 3rd down conversion rate for New England. They've been a pretty good 3rd down team this year, converting at a 42% clip. That's 10th in the league. And in the red zone, they're converting touchdowns at a 67% clip. They're 8 for 12 in the red zone. So 3rd downs, red zone, going to be big in this game. It's a big pass for the Bills. The Bills are still not great on 3rd down, right? You saw a good game against the Jets. You saw a little bit of improvement against the Saints. It was just awful against Baltimore. It was awful against Miami. So a big test for the Bills on 3rd down. And whether they want to admit it or not, right? Because I know Bobby Babich had that phrase on Hard Knocks about how they want to get Josh D on the ball in 3 plays or less. That's their goal. Whether they want to admit it to themselves or not, this is a bend but don't break defense that does let teams matriculate the ball down the field a little bit. So being tested the red zone is probably going to happen a couple of times in this game. So the Buffalo Bills got to force those field goals in this game. They cannot allow the New England Patriots to convert their red zone trips into touchdowns every time they get down the field. And they're doing it a pretty, like I said, successful clip this year as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Patriots 10th best 3rd down offense, Bills 8th worst 3rd down defense. And that's with a game this season not even allowing a 3rd down conversion. So that tells you how bad the Bills' 3rd down defense has been in the other 3 games. The Patriots also 7 for 8 on 4th downs this year, which is the 4th best percentage in the NFL and the 2nd best percentage only behind the Chiefs for teams who have attempted at least 8 4th down attempts. So the Patriots are willing to go for it on 4th down. They've got a obviously creative play caller back in the helm with McDaniels,
Yes.
and they're 7 for 8 on it. So they save some of their good plays for fourth down. We know the Pats are going to be aggressive on fourth down tonight because they are going to try to steal one here at Highmark. But there are some flaws to the Pats offense as well. 8th most offensive penalties in the NFL. So they do they have made some mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. And, 25th in rushing and raw stats align with the DVOA at 24th. So they're one of only 10 teams in the NFL averaging less than 4.4 yards per carry per rush attempt. So they haven't been super effective running the ball. Like I mentioned, they really haven't deployed Travion Henderson yet in this passing game or running game. And they have 4 fumble giveaways as well so far in 2025, which is the second most in the NFL. And obviously a bulk of those came against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but -3 turnover differential as well, which is 8th worst. Excuse me, 6th worst in the NFL. So there are some flaws with this offense, although they are efficient in the sense on third down and fourth downs. We'll see if the Bills can kind of improve on that third down defense tonight that has been pretty suspect so far this year.
Yeah, you look at the skill position players in the passing game. The Patriots are the number 4 offense in the NFL in EPA per play through the air. Their receivers are Stephon Diggs, who's been sort of coming off that injury, more of a chain mover, less of a downfield yak guy this year. You got Kayshon Boutte, who's obviously their vertical winner. Demario Pop Douglas, who's like their gadget guy. And then Mac Hollins obviously brings the size to that receiving core. Only 9 targets this year, 2 touchdowns on those 9 targets. I think the biggest strength the Patriots have on this Buffalo Bills defense is going to come from the fact that they have 2 very solid tight ends. Hunter Henry can attack you over the middle, down the seam. Austin Hooper is a very steady number 2 tight end. I expect to see a lot of 12 personnel from the Patriots today. And then they have their power back in Ramondre Stevenson, who can still catch the ball. He's had some fumbling issues. Travion Henderson, their speed receiving guy. Antonio Gibson, who's also another explosive ball carrier, even though his usage has been a little bit lighter this year. Running back targets are heavy. They target their running. It's Josh McDaniels. They target their running backs in the pass game. 3 running backs are in the top 5 in targets on that football team. So you know that they're going to try to get the ball into those running backs' hands. So what do I expect from the Patriots in terms of passing? I expect a lot of 12 personnel to get the Bills in base. Remember, is Matt Milano playing? Shaq Thompson could be starting his first game. If Milano isn't playing and it's Shaq Thompson, who's the third linebacker if the Buffalo Bills have to go base? Right? The Bills have questions at linebacker. So you put Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper onto the field. It's the Bills either going to lose size by keeping Taron Johnson in, or they're going to have some new guys that could be exploited. I think Josh McDaniels is going to test the linebackers. I think he's going to test the safeties with a lot of play action, a lot of misdirection. I think he's going to get Drake May rolling out of the pocket a ton. I think it's going to be a heavy take the underneath stuff and screen game to force the Bills to make tackles after they were so god-awful at it against the New Orleans Saints. I think this Patriots team has a much improved offensive line. They still do need play action and the quick game and rollouts as a crutch. They aren't perfect, but they are night and day better than they have been in years previous. And Josh McDaniels is the best thing that happened to this team this offseason. He knows this Buffalo Bills defense. He's gone against McDermott defenses for years. He knows how to attack it. The Bills are going to need to keep stuff in front of them. They're going to need to tackle well. They're going to need to not bite so much on misdirections, because I think you're going to see a lot of it. They can't over pursue. They have to play a solid game where they keep everything in front of them and they wrap up tackling and they force turnovers.
And that first part was a big struggle last week.
Yeah.
And, Josh McDaniels has to be looking at sort of even the Jets tape and the Saints tape and the Ravens tape and seeing how effective and wide open that field was for the quarterbacks to run in those games. And we know Drake May is an athlete and can run the ball himself. So we talk about Josh Allen being an X factor with his legs. I think Drake May is going to frustrate this Bills defense and frustrate us at times tonight with his legs and converting some third downs. And that's part of the reason why the Patriots again have been good on third downs as well. Drake May averaging 4.1 yards per attempt himself. He's got 24 attempts himself on the season running the ball. So he's got more, Ramondre's got 31. And he's right there with Travion, who has 26 and May has 24. So he's right there sort of with the lead back, and Ramondre only a few carries himself behind. So the Bills really have to be better at tackling, like you said, but
Mhm.
there's got to be some more discipline as well in those quarterback rushing lanes, I think. And I think at times they did a
Yeah.
decent job on that with Rattler, but too many times
Yeah.
they did not.
Last thing before we get to the Patriots running struggles and the Bills running struggles, the weakness versus the weakness here. I think the biggest matchups in the passing game is going to be Joey Bosa versus Will Campbell. Can Will Campbell handle the power game of Joey Bosa? That was the issues with Will Campbell, his length, maybe his strength. So they're probably going to give Will Campbell some help in this game with a guy like Joey Bosa. But the Buffalo Bills pass rush, some way, shape, or form, needs to show up in this football game. Drake May's rating when clean is 121. His rating when pressured is 64. So you got to get some pressure and you got to make Drake May feel it a little bit. And I also think the low-key matchup in this game is going to be Cole Bishop versus Hunter Henry. When Cole Bishop was drafted, he was kind of promoted and sold as this possible tight end stopper, this robber type of player. So can you put Cole Bishop mano a mano on Hunter Henry and can he hold down, right? Can the Buffalo Bills use that as a matchup? I'm not going to say it's every time because they'll mix in a lot of zone, but when the situation calls for it, can you line up Cole Bishop on Hunter Henry and can he produce? I think that's a matchup to look for in the passing game as well. Under the running game, they obviously have Stevenson, the power back, Henderson, Gibson, the speed, more agility type backs. Drake May can run with the football as well. He was getting a lot of Josh Allen comps coming out of the draft. Obviously, a lot of guys get those. I said last year, I think Drake May was the closest to those that I've ever seen, right? Not some of the absurd ones that you've seen from people in the past. The Bills have had issues, as you mentioned, with Spencer Rattler and other quarterbacks scrambling the football. So again, caveat to this struggling Patriots run game, right? They look good on paper, right? Drake May can scramble. Stevenson, we've seen kill us before. Henderson's looked like a stud rookie early in the preseason and was awesome in college. Gibson's had his moments. They look good on paper, but they are 29th in EPA per play on the ground. But I do expect a heavy dose of zone runs with our DTs being out. I expect to try to get them moving our DTs left and right, trying to get them to hold multiple gaps and exploit our weaknesses. Go misdirection, things like that. Go off tackle. Try to get those DTs moving left to right.
It will be interesting if the Patriots do decide to sprinkle in a little bit more Travion Henderson on the ground tonight, who's caught 13 of 13 targets for them, but he's only averaging 3.7 yards per carry. And he's a guy that you would expect with Antonio Gibson would sort of be in that mid fours to close to 5 yards a carry based on his skill set. And you'd expect Ramondre to be more the guy that's sort of down on the yards per carry. He's averaging 4 yards a carry himself. So I think it will be interesting tonight to see if the Patriots do try to use a little bit more misdirection running with Henderson, who has been the most secure ball carrier they've had, as far as he hasn't had the fumbling problems that Gibson and especially Stevenson have had this year. And we know the Bills are kind of living a little bit on trying to force at least one turnover every game to try to win that battle. So is this the night we see McDaniels maybe try to use Henderson a little bit more in that misdirection run game to try to get him sort of going for a team, I think, that want to use him more in the running game? They've used him a little bit in the passing game, but use him more in the running game. That's something I'm going to be paying attention to as well.
Yeah, the big matchups, kind of as I mentioned, I think the Bills IDLs versus zone runs. Can the DTs handle doubles? Can they make the right decisions to keep everyone else clean? Is Bernard going to get clean looks at these running backs? Is Taron Johnson going to get clean looks at these running backs? Are Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop going to get clean looks at these running backs and some of maybe these outside zones and things like that? And if the DTs aren't getting there first and initiating a little contact and slowing them down, are those guys in the back end capable of making tackles? So I think that's going to be the real big test for the Buffalo Bills in this game. If the Patriots were to have a breakout game on the run, in the running game, this would probably be their week to try to have a breakout game in the run. So we'll see. We'll see if the Bills' weakness right now, run defense, can look good against a team that hasn't run the ball well. And if they don't, right, again, this could be a game where the Bills, are want them to run the ball, to minimize their passing game or whatever it is, and it all works out from a scoreboard perspective. But if New England comes and runs the ball down our throats, that's still a concern, even if we win this ball game. And then obviously we talked about scrambles. The Bills have allowed 119 scramble yards at 10.8 yards per carry. They got to be smart about it, but I still don't think they can spy too much. I think they got to get guys on Hunter Henry. They got to be ready for the misdirections. They got to be ready for the play actions. I think if they have a guy biting too much close to the line of scrimmage, that could affect them in pass coverage a little bit, especially on those third downs.
And it'll be interesting to see how the Patriots approach pass protection on third downs, because that's been one of the reasons Henderson hasn't been able to get on the field. Is one of his calling cards in college was his pass protection, and he struggled a bit there. So will they have to keep like a Gibson or a Mondre on the field on third downs? I think if you're the Bills, you welcome that, to be honest, because I think you don't want to see a guy like Henderson out of the backfield making plays on third downs, an area, again, where the Bills have struggled defending running backs out of the backfield as well, screen game and things of that nature. So yeah, that Bills third down defense and that run defense going to be tested tonight. 30th DVOA run defense against a weak Patriots running game to this point. But like you said, they look good and they should be better on paper than they have been. So is this the night where they kind of try to get it going?
Before we get into our superlatives, I want to talk a little bit about special teams, because I think we talked about third down and red zone being a huge part of this game. We talked about the Patriots being good on third down versus us being weak on third down, being a key component of this game. The Bills having their lead rushing attack going up against this on paper stout rushing attack, of the rush defense of the Patriots. These have been all the keys to the game so far, but special teams could end up being the story of this game, I think, by the end of it. They have a rookie kicker in Andreas Borregales. He's 10 of 12 on extra points, 4 of 5 on field goals. They got Bryce Behringer. He's a middle of the pack, year 3 punter. It's the return game, right? The Bills have been recycling guys in and out on special teams this year. They still just don't have a vibe yet. Prater obviously had that moment week 1. He's been solid outside of one kick. They've been recycling punters. I don't think their return units have been great. I don't think their coverage units have been great. They've had moments, but it's just not clicking the way that maybe some other teams are clicking right now. The Patriots have some dangerous return guys. Antonio Gibson can house it at any time. Marcus Jones can house it at any time. These guys can flip the field. These guys can cause invisible yards. If New England somehow manages to, tie or even win the turnover battle in this game and makes a splash play on special teams where they house one or flip the field or set themselves up in the red zone to start a drive, that could end up having a huge effect and maybe flipping the outcome of this football game.
It seems like it's been brewing for a couple weeks now, but I hold my breath every time the Bills kick the ball off and the other team's returning it, because it just feels to me like they've gotten lucky a few times with some tackles that it seems like that their opposing return man is really about to bust one through. And it makes me really nervous for tonight's game, like you said, with those Patriots return guys. I'm not trying to put this in the universe, but I get very nervous when the Bills have to defend kickoffs. Not so much punts, but kickoffs. I get very nervous.
I get nervous for the punter when we have to punt. That's
yeah,
we're getting to that point for the Buffalo Bills. But all right, now we are going to cap things off this evening, or this morning, I should say, with our pregame superlatives. All right. Every week on this show, we like to have a little fun, make some in-game predictions, and we're going to start with our Take Me Higher player of the game. All right, comment section, feel free to join in as we start with our Take Me Higher player of the game. This is a player not named Josh Allen, a star, a cornerstone player not named Josh Allen, that we either think is going to or we think needs to step up in a big way for the Buffalo Bills to get that dub today. Dave, I'll start with you. Who is your Take Me Higher player of the game?
Those TikToks where the wife catches the husband listening to football and it kind of all sounds like sexual innuendos and stuff, where Troy Aikman is well, I'm going to ride him hard and I'm going to ride him hard again. And I'm going to ride James Cook hard, just like the Bills should ride him hard tonight. Over 100 yards from scrimmage in each game so far this season. I've been going to him the last 2 games. I think it's a James Cook Take Me Higher game again tonight. He's already ran for 5 touchdowns this year. He's already run for over 400 yards. He's already run for 21 first downs this year after running for just 48 total first downs a year ago. Your offensive player of the month in September for the AFC. A big game for James Cook tonight. Both running and receiving, I think, needs to be in the cards for the Bills to really feel comfortable and pull away with this one. So I'm going James Cook tonight.
Carl Thoman coming in saying, this will be the day that you will be raving about Greg Rousseau, who will have 10 pressures and 3 sacks. I can look forward to that.
That's a hot take.
Spin comes in, says Kincaid. No bones about it comes in, says Kincaid. Charles G says Bosa needs to put Campbell in a blender. I agree with that. Hawes and Bosa. I would say I still would save Hawes for a wild card. Shavers, I would save that for a wild card. So I will. I'm actually going to double dip from last week as well, just like you. I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid. I think the Patriots are really tough on the boundary with Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. I think Spillane is a good linebacker, but the safeties are a little weak. I think the other linebackers are kind of young and unproven. I think the Bills need to attack the middle of the field to be successful. So I don't have like a stat line prediction or anything, but I think this has got to be another big day for Dalton Kincaid. We're talking, and it's not just one catch for a touchdown. I think this guy needs to get 6-7 targets in this game, maybe even possibly more. I think he needs to be into the 60, 70 plus yard range in terms of yards. And I think he needs to be a factor in terms of getting us 6 again and being a factor in the red zone. So I think Dalton Kincaid is going to have to be a big part of this game. Not just a one catch here or one catch there, but like be a legitimate guy that they are targeting and they are dialing up plays for in this football game to be successful. All right, now on to our wild card player of the game. All right, so kind of opposite of the take me higher, not a star player, but maybe a surprise player or a lower end of the roster player who is somebody maybe flying under the radar that is going to step up or needs to step up for the Buffalo Bills to win this football game today. Dave, I'll start with you. Comment section if you got anything. I saw Tyrell Shavers' first touchdown in there already. I saw Jackson Hawes in there already. So where are you leaning here?
Yeah, Hawes is a good one. I think I'm going to go with a guy you kind of briefly mentioned earlier in the show, and we talk about like the Patriots DVOA statistics on defense have struggled in defending running backs out of the backfield as pass catchers. So I'm going to go with Ty Johnson as a wild card player tonight. You know, last year he was a steady contributor, obviously had his big moments in the playoff game against Denver, had big moments in the Lions game, but I think it's going to be a heavy running back usage tonight for the Bills in this game. So James Cook's obviously going to be the main guy, but I think Ty Johnson's going to get in maybe in some 2-minute situations, maybe in some third downs, and he's going to need to make a play or two in the passing game for Ty Johnson, maybe even a touchdown for Ty Johnson out of the backfield. But I think Ty Johnson's going to make a couple plays out of the backfield as a receiver tonight and should be a good matchup for the Bills as well against that Pats defense. Spillane, not exactly great in coverage at the linebacker position, along with the others. So give me Ty Johnson as the wild card.
I'm not gonna lie. I almost went with Ty Johnson again, doubled it from last week, but I didn't want to do that. So I moved in a different direction. So thank you for mentioning that, because I do think if the Bills are looking to take some pressure off of James Cook, this could be a game where you get Ty Johnson maybe involved in the passing game, get his mojo back, and that could be a way to sort of reintegrate him into the offense, take a little pressure off. Cecil McDog comes in and says, I would like to be Trey White. No bones about it, says Elijah Moore.
Nice one.
Michael L comes in and says Elijah Moore as well. Spin says Cole Bishop. Just Tippecanoe comes in and says Reggie Gilliam, goal line touchdown. So a bunch of good ones there. Charles G says Bernard because he always makes a big play. I don't know.
Bernard's not a wild card.
I think he's a take me higher. Yeah.
He's a take me higher.
Team captain, contract extension. Yeah. I think he's a take me higher as well. But you're right, Charles G. I think Bernard can't have 3 missed tackles in this game, right? Like he's got to keep him clean, let him make his plays. For me, the wild card play of the game, I'm going with Shaq Thompson. There's no Dorian Williams. There's a chance that Matt Milano doesn't play. And if he does, I think Shaq Thompson could see the field in these 3 linebacker sets, or they could sort of maybe have Matt Milano on some kind of pitch count. The Pats are going to try to go heavy 12 personnel and try to get the linebackers onto the field for the Buffalo Bills. So I think Shaq Thompson will be really important in making some plays on these running backs in the misdirection, making some plays on these running backs in the screen game. We saw him have that nice blow up of a guy in the Miami game, and covering these guys out of the backfield, because Dorian Williams sure as heck couldn't do it. So I would be peeing down my leg right now if Dorian Williams was playing in this game, thinking about what these running backs could do to Dorian Williams. Like, I don't mean to be mean to Dorian Williams, but I've made it pretty clear that I don't think he can cover the pass to save his life. So he has a role on this football team. I think Shaq Thompson's probably better in a situation like this against teams that are going to try to get those balls to the backs out of the backfield, run misdirections, run screens, and things like that. So I think Shaq Thompson could end up making a few plays in this game where we're like, yep, he showed up today. He was solid. So I'm going to go with Shaq Thompson as my wild card player of the game. And that moves us now on to our Respect You player of the game. All right. Every week we can only pick one, even though I want to pick them all. Players on the other team. I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone because I don't want to put any bad juju into the world. Respect You player of the game. One player. You got to pick one player in New England that these Buffalo Bills got to respect in order to be successful in this football game. Who are you going with, Dave?
Bills fans not going to be happy with me, I think, with this one. But there's a few ways you can go. They have a lot of good defensive personnel. You could say Christian Gonzalez. It's easy to say Drake May. Obviously, I'm going to kind of go away from that because I kind of go away from picking the quarterbacks in these situations. I'm going to say Stephon Diggs. I think you got to respect Stephon Diggs in this game. He's kind of a petty guy, as we know a bit. I think Josh McDaniels can be petty at times. I think they will want to try to maybe test Benford a bit, test that CB2 tonight, whether it's Ingram or whoever it is. And he leads this team in catches, had his first 100-yard game of the season a week ago. He looked pretty good last week. And I think that there could be times where that May-Diggs connection could give the Bills a little problem. And although the Bills look good statistically in pass defense, I think third down is still going to be possibly an issue for them. And although Diggs isn't the downfield guy, like you mentioned, only on pace for 900-something yards, but 90 catches, he can be a chain mover for this team still. And so don't hate me, Bills fans, but I'm saying we got to respect Stephon Diggs tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. On offense for them, if you're not going to go Drake May, I think it's got to be either Stephon Diggs or I think Hunter Henry has a chance to really do some damage on this team. I love Hunter Henry. I have a lot of respect for his game. I decided to go to the defense side of the ball. I passed on Christian Gonzalez, and I went with Christian Barmore for this game. I mean, this guy, since he's been drafted, has been a disruptive interior rusher. In 2023, he posted 8.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, and 16 quarterbacks hits. And he appears to be rebounding back to that form after these 2 years of health scares with the blood clots and everything. He had 4 pressures versus Carolina last week, and he's beginning to show that pocket collapsing skill again. He's strong versus the run. He's good in his gap integrity. His presence in prior seasons has helped anchor that Patriots running defense, and that defense is going to have to anchor down tonight to slow down James Cook and the Buffalo Bills rush offense. So I'm going to go with Christian Barmore. I think he can make an impact both against the run and he can make an impact as a pass rusher as well. So he can make a lot of people's lives miserable in this football game. So I'm going to go with Christian Barmore as my Respect You player of the game. And I like Mike Vrabel, even though he's not playing. He's definitely brought a culture back to that New England team that I think is paying dividends for them. He brought a respectable coaching staff back to that team after I think they've been struggling to sort of have a respectable coaching staff for a while. So I think that is McDaniels, Vrabel, like they're well on their way to rebuilding that thing the right way in New England, especially with that quarterback. So yeah, Mike Vrabel is a good one as well. All right, on to our hottest takes. We're having a fire sale here. All right, Dave, what is your hottest take? And of course, in the comment section, if you want to hit us up with your hottest take, let us know. What's your hottest take heading in this football game?
I don't know if Cecil McDonald was saying Bills tackling is a wild card or if it's a hot take that Bills tackling would be good. Either way, I like that pick. I'm going to get a little creative with this one. I think does the record 11-38 sound good to you? Is that a good record? It's pretty bad, right? 11-38. So 11-38 is 11 challenge wins and 38 challenge losses for Sean McDermott in his tenure as a head coach, even with bringing in John Perry, which I don't know. Wish I could get paid as well as him for doing as bad of a job as he's done for this special assignment. Yeah. Sean McDermott's going to win a challenge tonight, folks. That's a hot take. Sean McDermott will win a challenge tonight against the Patriots. It's going to piss Vrabel off because, Vrabel's he wears his emotions on his sleeve. And at some point in this game, there's going to be a bad call, and Sean McDermott is going to win a challenge tonight. 11 wins, 38 losses as a head coach. Second worst and worst success rate of any head coach who's had at least 10 challenges in the last 5 years. So, yeah, give me Sean McDermott winning a challenge tonight.
We got Spin coming in saying 4+ sacks. We got No Bones About It coming in saying Diggs under 50 yards. Like those. My fire sale is the Bills tight ends. I'll throw Reggie Gilliam in there too, just to give me a little bit more leeway here. Reggie Gilliam, Jackson Haas, Dawson Knox, Dalton Cade. I think they account for 10+ catches, 100+ yards, and 2 touchdowns in this game. So look for the Bills to get the big boys involved. Spread it out between those three. I'm giving myself the leeway of Gilliam just in case. Just give myself an extra look.
Yeah, sure.
10+ catches from those guys, 100+ yards, and 2 touchdowns. All right. Our final segment coming up. We are going to paint a picture for you. We are going to take you back to your future with our pre-game predictions. Carl Thoman trying to one-up me saying Knox, Kincaid, Hawes all have a touchdown in this game.
I said that 2 weeks ago, and so people keep coming back to it.
Shakir 80+ yards of the tutty as well. So a couple of hot takes coming in late here. Dave, paint a picture for us. Take us back to the future. How's this game going to look start to finish?
I think the Bills offensively will really test this Patriots defense who, especially on the ground where, like you mentioned, they haven't gone up against maybe the best offensive lines. They're now going up against James Cook. I think the Bills will be effective enough on offense. You might see a few times where they settle for some Matt Prater field goals, but I do think generally the Bills will be able to get in the end zone. My concern is going to be on the defensive side for the balls and sort of the frustration that may come with facing a Drake May, who leads the NFL in completion percentage, a team that has been top 10 in third down conversion rates and will not be afraid to go for it on fourth downs either. I also think you made a good point sort of at the end of the Bills defense segment about special teams and the Patriots potentially making a big special teams play in this game to either keep the game closer or flip it. But I do think the Bills do enough offensively tonight. And I think the Bills, as bad as they were tackling last week against the Saints, I think in short spurts, the Bills have been able to correct things like this in sort of short spurts. Not necessarily saying it's going to be fixed for the whole year, but I think they will be better at tackling tonight and force a turnover or two against the Patriots as well. Get to Drake May, who's been sacked 13 times. So I think it's going to be a high variance game from the Pats offense, but I do think they will put up some points. Ultimately, the Bills will end up winning this one, I think, by double digits. Give me Bills 30, Pats 20.
All right. I like that. A lot of people coming in with like some like 30, 25s, 31, 24s. Apologize, I can't get to them all. I have a hard out in about 5 minutes here because I gotta go take. Anyone hasn't noticed I'm a little more dressed up than usual. I got some family photos we gotta go take advantage of this morning off. Sacrificing Browns Vikings to go spend time with the family. I know I'm a true family man. I'm a true family man. But Carl Thurman does come in and say, I don't think the Pats are as good as the Bills, and the Bills win by more than people think. 31, New England 14. So he's kind of maybe in your camp a little bit. I'm gonna go Bills 30, Patriots 24. I wouldn't actually be surprised if the Bills are down at halftime or the Bills get down a score. Maybe the Bills even get down, 2 scores, not like crazy amounts. But I still do think the Bills, after last week's ugly game, I think they clean up a lot of those costly mistakes from a penalty standpoint, from a forcing the ball down the field standpoint when maybe they don't want to, from a tackling standpoint. I think that from a special team standpoint, I think everything's a lot more zipped up tonight for the Buffalo Bills. I think they once again end up winning the turnover battle, and that is what's going to help them in the second half pull away. New England can't steal. If we can keep our special teams locked in and we don't let them flip the field, if we can don't let them win the turnover battle and we can steal one from them, I think that'll help us get to a nice little either 6, 7, 10 point somewhere type of win for the Buffalo Bills in this football game. But I do think they are close enough to keep it within the point spread. Like I do not think it's going to get. What was the point spread in this game? It was.
I thought it was 6.5, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. I thought early in the week it was like 8.5, and I was like, that's kind of big, but yeah.
8.5. Sorry.
Yeah, I think they'll keep it. I think they'll keep it close to the spread. So, but again, I said at the top of the show, I think this is going to be like a 55 to 45 type of game. I don't think this is some 60-40 game, 65-35 game. Like this is a New England Patriots team that's on the come up, and this is the game where they're going to give the Bills their best shot here, and I think they have some matchups that they can exploit. But Bills 30, Patriots 24. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Don't forget the Cover One post game show is live following the game. Join Greg, join Aaron. They always have a great combo after the show. Our next show is tomorrow night at 9 p.m. where we'll hopefully be having our 5th Victory Monday of the year and our third AFC East Victory Monday of the year. As always, share. Liking this helps us with the algorithm. Clicking that subscribe button helps us with the algorithm. Clicking that share button and then sharing this to socials or texting it to friends and family, word of mouth, that helps us as well. And when the show is done being live, leave any other comments you might have, any thoughts you might have in the comment section once we are on demand and no longer live. That helps us with the engagement and the algorithm as well. So you guys, again, you make the show, right? Like I thought we'd be out of here in a clean hour today, but so many great comments came up that I'm really pushing it now, going to an hour 15. So I really want to thank you guys. As always, you make the show what it is. And until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comment section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!